more game. One more game, the Eagles clinch the division and home field advantage. And the Cowboy fans, you could thank us, because that means Dak won't play versus Washington and he won't throw any more interceptions. Dallas still stinks. Yo, by the way, King Dingbat here, and hope everybody's having a great day. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're hanging in there. I hope you're ready. Just not for the New Year's, because it's coming. But I hope you're ready to clinch the division and secure home field advantage throughout the playoffs, because that's exactly what is going to happen to the Philadelphia Eagles this Sunday when they beat the New Orleans Saints. Now, before we get into it, if you're new to the channel and you like the content, make sure you hit that like button. More importantly, make sure you subscribe to the most censored, most throttled, Eagles content creator in all of the internet. That's right here, Philly 500. And if you've been subscribed for a while, you know the deal. Just double check, double moonwalk check. Make sure everything is working right. You're still subscribed. You still got that bell rung, and everything is set to go. Now, let's jump right into this Eagles-Saints matchup, and we're going to start with the injury report. So here's the injury report that came out Friday, December 30th, right? Lane Johnson did not practice. He's out groin. Avonte Maddox, toe, he's out. Both those guys, you won't see them. You won't see Lane Johnson until the playoffs. I doubt you're going to see Avonte Maddox at all. Jalen Hurts, right shoulder, limited practice. He is doubtful. There is no way Jalen Hurts is going to play this game, in my opinion. No way he's going to play this game. And probably at some point later today, you're going to hear that he's definitely out. He's been ruled out. Jalen Hurts is not playing this game. A.J. Brown, knee, full practice. Jordan Davis, concussion, full practice. Linval Joseph, illness, full practice. Miles Sanders, knee, full practice. And I want to keep an eye on Miles Sanders, because he's going to be playing possibly with a brace on his knee. They think that he's okay and everything's good to go. But we got to see, because we need Miles Sanders in the playoffs. He's got to be ready to go in the playoffs. And we're going to need him in this game, especially with the fact that Jalen Hurts is not going to be playing. Tim McManus said this about Jalen Hurts and the situation that he's in right now. He said, the Eagles plan to rest Jalen Hurts against the Saints. The decision came down to a health and safety issue, a source said, as Sirianni referenced today. Hurts' functionality in his shoulder has progressed to the point where the team expects him to be back on the field soon. Now, there is some talks and chatter that if the Eagles beat the New Orleans Saints and clinch the division, clinch home field advantage, you still might see Jalen Hurts versus the New York Giants. And the Eagles would want to do that because they would want to give him some reps, want to give him some work before you go out and you get into the playoffs. Otherwise, he didn't play versus Dallas. He didn't play versus New Orleans. He didn't play versus the Giants. Then he went and he had a bye week. So you're talking about 4 full weeks that he did not play. Over a month since he had seen the field. Then he's coming out in the divisional round of the playoffs. You don't want that. So there's a lot of talk, a lot of chatter, and I think there's something to it. I think Jalen Hurts won't play this week versus Saints. But even if the Eagles win, and they will win, I expect Jalen Hurts to play a little bit during the Giants game. It may be one quarter. It may be a couple series. But I think they're going to give him some reps, some work out there, because you want him to get a little bit of work before the bye week. He's going to have plenty of time to rest. The only thing about that is if you do play Jalen Hurts versus the New York Giants, and let's say the Giants clinch and they're playing their backups, but you just want to get him reps, you have to also play your starting offensive lineman, because I'm not putting Jalen Hurts out there without a starting offensive line out there. So look for the Eagles to clinch and lock everything up, but I also look for the Eagles to wind up playing Hurts a little bit during the Giants game, just to get him some reps nonetheless. Now, maybe I'm wrong. They've gone pretty much entire preseasons without playing him at all, only to have him be ready and look sharp week 1. But I think you got to give him some work. You got to give him some reps. Then you got to rest him and make sure he's 100% good to go. Now, In this game versus the New Orleans Saints, this is a huge game for the Eagles and for the New Orleans Saints. The Saints actually, with their horrible record, they actually have a chance to make the playoffs. Can you believe we're sitting here actually talking that the New Orleans Saints can win the division? They can win the division because they stink, the Carolina Panthers stink, the Atlanta Falcons stink, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stink. Okay? So they actually have something to play for. And how are they going to beat the Eagles? It's going to be the same way that Washington and Dallas both beat the Eagles. You got to try to keep that offense off the field as much as possible. You got to try to run the ball. You got to try to control time of possession. If you look in the Dallas game, first half, Dallas really controlled time of possession. Not so much in the second half, but in the first half. And then in Washington game, Washington controlled time of possession for like 20 minutes in that first half. The Eagles can't allow that to happen. Also, the Eagles have to cut down the turnovers. 4 turnovers against Dallas. I think they have 4 turnovers against Washington. Turnovers will kill you. The Boston Scott turnover versus Dallas was horrendous. The Miles Sanders turnover was horrendous. Okay, the interceptions they weren't great either, but I don't think they hurt us as much as those 2 fumbles hurt us in that game. So you can't turn over the ball. And that's what they're going to look for. They're going to look for turnovers, mistakes by the Eagles, control time of possession. They're going to run the ball. When you look at the Saints offense, it does not really scare me. It does not. Andy Dalton stinks. He stinks. I'm just going to say it. I thought he stunk with Cincinnati. I think he stinks with Dallas. I think he stinks with the New Orleans Saints. I'm not worried about him. He's a sitting duck for our defensive line, who is going to what was like 2 sacks away from breaking Eagles' all-time record for sacks in a season. They're only 12 from the all-time NFL record, which they're probably not going to get, but shout out to them on having a hell of a season. I expect them to get a lot of pressure on Andy Dalton. I do. Chris Olave, the wide receiver, is really the only one that scares me. He's a deep threat. He makes plays. He's a good-looking young rookie. So I worry a little bit about him. Otherwise, in the passing game, I'm not worried about the New Orleans Saints. The way the Saints are going to beat the Eagles, then what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to run the ball effectively. You're going to have Kamara with a huge game. And then they're going to have to use Hill, and they're going to have to run him from the quarterback position. The Saints, I read, are 5-1. They're 5-1 when they run for over 130 plus yards. So their record's pretty good when they run the ball. Obviously, the Eagles have to shut down the run. And I thought the Eagles did a great job shutting down Pollard and Zeke, Fat Man Zeke, last week. I think they definitely were good at that. I think they've been good the last few weeks. So I think the Eagles will be able to stop the run. I expect them to. But really, when you look at the Saints, the only thing that scares me is that running game. You shut down that run, I think the Saints, they're a no-go. I don't think they got a shot. And what I want to see the Eagles do, especially from an offensive standpoint, is come out early and score points. Jump up on them, get a big lead, and take the Saints running game out of the game. Once you do that, this game's over by the third quarter. 3.5 quarters, fourth quarter, you're sitting everybody. That's what the Eagles have to do. They have to come out. They have to score early. I think Minshew should be better in his second game than he was in the first game. I'm looking for him to have a better game. Now, Saints defensively, couple interesting things. One, their red zone defense is pretty good. It's 5th in the league, so they don't give up a lot of points in the red zone. They don't give a lot of touchdowns up in the red zone. The Eagles are the best red zone offense in the league. Now, a lot of that has to do with Jalen Hurts, who's not going to be there. But the Eagles should still be able to score points. You can run on the Saints. The Saints give up a lot of yards on the ground. The Eagles, with Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, Scott, should be able to run the ball effectively against the Saints. I'm expecting them to. I think Miles is set up for a big game. Also, the Saints are the best defense against tight ends, which was a very interesting statistic. So they do a really good job against tight ends, but where they really struggle is against wide receivers. They are horrible against wide receivers. So you look for A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith to come out and have a pretty big game against them. I think the Eagles I think they match up really well with the Saints. Now, it's not going to be super cold. The Saints in December in the cold, they usually don't play that well, although they did beat Cleveland last week. But they're going to be playing the Eagles. I think the weather's going to be in the 50-degree range, so weather's not going to be a factor. But the Eagles clinching everything will be the factor, okay? The Eagles are clearly the better team. Even with Gardner Minshew, they're clearly the better team. If they cut down the mistakes, they cut down the stupid turnovers, which I look at a couple of those turnovers and they were stupid. That Boston Scott fumbled, Dallas did nothing to get that ball back. And the Eagles just gave it away. The Miles Sanders, the Eagles just gave it away. You can't do that. So the Eagles can't be turning over the ball. They gotta be playing. They gotta play smart football. Run the ball well. I think there'll be plays to be made to the wide receivers. And then when you're in the red zone, score touchdowns. If they do these things, the Saints have no chance. The Saints need the Eagles to cough it up 3 or 4 times. The Saints need the Eagles to not score points in the red zone, have to settle for field goals. They have to keep themselves in it, have to keep running the ball, and then hopefully they can pull something out late in the fourth quarter. That's what they have to be thinking. But they have a lot at stake here, okay? Let's not forget, if you throw away the division title, if you throw away home field advantage, if you throw away the Saints and them winning the division, remember, the Eagles are playing for the Saints' first-round pick also. The Eagles own the first-round pick of the Saints. That means if the Eagles beat the Saints will have 10 losses. Chances are they have no shot at the division at that point. That means that they're probably going to be a top 10 pick, top 12 at most. That's a huge pick for the Eagles to get. You want to get a top 12 pick. If the Eagles could be possibly a Super Bowl team with a top 10 to 12 pick, it's absolutely huge for us. So the Eagles need to beat the Saints to help secure that pick. Because if the Saints somehow pulled the division out, even with 9 losses, they're picking like they're picking as a division winner. We lose a lot of draft spots if the Saints somehow win and get into the playoffs. So on that level of this being a game for a draft pick, this is a very important game in a lot of ways. This probably secures a top 10 pick, secures a division, clinches home field throughout the playoffs. All that can happen in this game, okay? And I think it'll make things a lot more interesting too, because let's say the Eagles win and clinch, then Dallas has no reason to play any of their starters versus Washington. Now Washington is going back with Carson Wentz as a starter, and this is why I think this is interesting, because if Washington beats Cleveland and Dallas, they get into the playoffs. They would be the 7th seed. They would have to play the Minnesota Vikings. I think Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings could lose to Washington in the first round, meaning that Washington would then have to go to Philly and play the Eagles. That means Carson Wentz comes to the link after all. Could you imagine a situation like that? You can't make it up. There's a 75%, 80% chance the Eagles will be playing Dallas in the playoffs. I think that's the most likely scenario second round, because I think Dallas beats any of those NFC South teams. But if Washington plays Minnesota, I give them a puncher's chance to win. One reason is because Kirk Cousins is not great in primetime games, in big games. I expect the choke to come up. Now, what is Carson Wentz? He's done nothing either, so who knows? But I think 75-80% chance that the Eagles will play Dallas in second round of the playoffs after their bye week. At home in Philly, would love nothing more than to beat them. However, with Dallas getting a bye week and letting basically Washington win that last week and get in, it could make it interesting if Washington could pull a giant upset on the Vikings. Either way you look at it, the playoffs is going to be fantastic. It's going to be awesome. I don't care who you send us. We'll beat all of them. Just get us home field advantage. Get us the division. I think the Eagles will win this game. I think the Eagles are going to win this game 28-13. I think this game will be over by the fourth quarter. I think the doubt will be all in doubt. You know what I'm saying? No doubt the Eagles will win. So I think the Eagles will have their backups in midway through the fourth quarter, and they'll secure the number 1 seed and a division. We'll be smoking stogies and talking about it. It's going to be fun. I hope each and every one of you guys have a wonderful New Year's. Happy New Year's Eve tonight. Enjoy yourselves. And of course, New Year's Day, we will be streaming the clinching game for the Eagles as they win the division and clinch home field throughout the playoffs, breaking a franchise record of 14 wins. So look for that. We'll see you guys later. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. Of course, don't be a dingbat. Remember, it's how we vision. We're all just living in it. Okay, so one of the things I forgot to talk about in this video was A.J. Brown and the possibility of him breaking Mike Quick's all-time receiving yards record of 1,409 yards. Now, he needs 105 yards to tie it, 106 yards to break it. And he's probably only going to get this game to do it because the Eagles most likely are going to win. They're not going to play him in the final game of the season. So he's going to have to go out, A.J. Brown, and basically have over 105 yards to tie it, or to break it, rather. I think he can do it. Why not? This is a perfect team that gives up a lot of yards to receivers. I'm expecting A.J. Brown to shatter the record. I think he's going to have about 130 yards receiving versus New Orleans Saints. And yeah, I think this is probably, for a first-year Eagles wide receiver, in his first year as an Eagles wide receiver, I think this is the best season of any receiver I can remember, even over Terrell Owens in 2004. So A.J. Brown, go out, break that record. With that said, Denzel Washington out.